Hey, greetings, everyone. This is your host and Vice President of the American Institute of Stress. It's Will Heckman. Thanks again for joining us today at Finding Contentment, the official podcast of the American Institute of Stress. I want to ask those of you who are listening or watching the podcast, make sure you go to stress.org. While you're there, check out everything we have. Also, take a moment and hit the subscribe button. You'll get our magazines for free and get a lot of information. A lot of it is free information, and it's really helpful. And since we're talking about subscribing, I'm going to ask, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Really helps the channel grow. By the way, some of you who have been listening know that we were voted in the top 10 of stress podcasts. We're actually number 8. I want to be number 1. Hit the subscribe button. All right. Today, we explore the powerful connection between stress, resilience, and the cancer journey with author Joelle Kaufman, whose book, Crushing the Cancer Curveball, offers a very candid and very practical roadmap for navigating one of life's most overwhelming diagnoses. I've been there. Drawing from decades of personal and generational experience, she shares how stress shows up every stage, from diagnosis to recovery, and how individual families can find moments of control, meaning, and even joy along the way. This conversation looks at the emotional realities people often don't talk about and highlights simple human strategies that can make a profound difference when everything feels uncertain. Joelle has faced cancer for 12 times over 43 years on her own journey, plus walking alongside loved ones through theirs. And she wrote Crushing the Cancer Curveball because she discovered something most people miss. Healing isn't just about medicine. It's about rewiring your mind and building the right team around you. It's very important. And also creating a small daily habits that add up to extraordinary resilience, which you're unfortunately going to need. Her approach works whether you're a CEO or a stay-at-home parent, because chronic illness doesn't care about your resume. It cares about how you respond. And Crushing the Cancer Curveball breaks down the mental traps that make suffering even worse. It shows you how to build your championship support team and gives you simple rituals that help your body and your mind work together instead of against each other. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending everything is fine. It's about strategic thinking, treating your diagnosis as information, not a verdict, and designing your path forward with clarity instead of panic. Because the most powerful healing tool you have is in a pharmacy. It's how you think, who surrounds you, and what you do every single day. So please join me in welcoming Joelle Kaufman. Thank you, Joelle. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Very interested in what you have written and what you have to say.
Thank you. I want to have you introduce me everywhere I go.
Hey, I didn't do any of that stuff. It's you who wrote the book. It's you who've experienced it. I'm just a curious guy who has a little experience with family members who have gone through cancer, and realize I wanted to have this conversation because I realized how common it is for not only people who are diagnosed, but the people around them, the caregivers and things, how stressful it was for me. It was terrifying. Forget stress. It was terrifying. First thing is, so when cancer, it sort of enters a family's life, stress often becomes absolutely constant. What were the earliest emotional stresses you experienced? How did, and also when that happens, it must reshape your perspective on things.
I think the reshape is permanent. So I've referred to cancer as one of fate's wake-up calls,
Mm.
right? It is not one you can ignore, and it does change your perspective permanently. That doesn't mean that's bad. It just means you're going to have a changed perspective. So you asked, I mean, the very first memory I have of it, Will, and I wrote about it in the book, was being 13. I'm in eighth grade. It's a Sunday night, and my parents bring my sister and I into the formal living room. I don't know how many people who listen to you still have a center hall colonial, but there's a room that you never use, and it's the formal living room. And we're sitting in the formal living room, and my parents tell me that mom is going to go to the hospital and have surgery tomorrow. My mom is a phenomenal athlete. She had just returned to work as a teacher. She was excited about it. She was healthy. She didn't smoke. She didn't drink. And, mom's having surgery. They found a lump and they think it's most likely breast cancer. I didn't know anybody 36 years old who had breast cancer. That was an old person's disease, right? Like that happens to your great grandparents or something. And that's a myth. The fastest growing population of cancer patients are under 50. With men, it's colorectal cancer, and with women, it's breast cancer. And we don't know exactly why. If we knew exactly why, arguably we'd do something, but it's still not common. I mean, one out of every two Americans will face cancer in their lifetime, but in any given year, it's relatively uncommon. And that's part of what makes it so stressful is you don't expect it. You've probably don't have a group of friends going through the same exact thing. It's not like, oh, I'm pregnant and so are five other people I know. Um, right? It's not like that. It's very isolating. And so I'm 13 years old. I've heard this thing, and the first thing that goes to my mind, the first stressor is my mom gonna die? Right? That's a normal first question. In fact, every movie, television show, book you read, and frankly, even stories of people you know often feature someone being diagnosed with cancer and subsequently dying.
Yep.
So it's not an unreasonable reaction. For fun, Will, because I know you've walked this path, what do you think the 5 year, and that's as long as they measure, survival rate is for people diagnosed with breast cancer that is localized? It has not spread throughout the body. What's your idea of the number?
Since I am familiar with it, I know it's high. It's
How
high.
high?
I thought it was like 80%,
99.
99%.
Okay, so
So
we're
my
talking
experience is 12.
stratospheric.
Yeah.
Right, we're talking it's stratospherically high. Now,
Yes.
that's 5 years. Things do happen after that, and life is a terminal event. But my first reaction was mom's going to die or could die,
Yeah.
and I needed to deal with that stress. Now, we all have biologically predetermined patterns for stress. I am a certified in the process communication model, which is Dr. Talby Collar's work, which was done in the 70s and is used all around the world about how do we communicate, recognizing the patterns of stress of each individual. And they do fit into patterns. So my pattern when I was 13 was very much analytical. I am going to logic this thing to submission. And I can't do the surgery. I'm not the doctor. I'm 13. But the next morning, I go to school and I go to the library and I research. And it didn't actually take very long for me to discover more or less early stage cancers, breast cancers, are highly survivable. And so my 13-year-old mind said, well, this sucks, but my mom's going to be fine. And the stress alleviated because now the stress was how do we deal with surgery and recovery and being supportive, but it's not this looming unknown of she's going to die. And that really helped me at 13. It did not help when I was 15 and a half and the damn thing came back
Hmm.
because that wasn't supposed to happen. And that led to chemo and radiation. And it really did spiral my dad into some pretty dark places. And my parents were pretty isolated. It was partly the time, it was the 80s. It was partly how they turned inward, which is normal. there weren't a lot of people for any of us to talk to except each other. And we're all in this kind of stress cyclone of, and it's a pattern, right? Chemo, come home from chemo, mom is sick, make dinner. When is mom going to feel better? Mom's losing her hair. Does mom want to go out? Dad's working really hard because we have to keep health insurance and we have to provide. And I can't drive. And we have all of these things we do as kids. And how do we get there? And mom's trying to do that, but she's tired. You just hear the like little itty bitty stress pain that came from we were isolating. Now, I want to fast forward. My sister was diagnosed when she was 29. It was right after she had finished an Ironman. It was 3 months before her wedding. Again, phenomenal shape, very healthy. Because one of the stressors for people when they're diagnosed with cancer, after they say, am I going to die or not, is what did I do wrong? And I want everybody who's listening to this to hear loud and clear nothing. You did not
Right.
cause your cancer. You have cells that ran amok and somehow they have evaded your immune system. And good news, we live in this era, and there are lots of great science and medicine to both
Mhm.
treat your cancer and minimize your side effects. The
Yeah.
number of people who say to me, I'm afraid of chemo because I don't want to lose your hair. I said, you don't have to lose your hair. There are things that cold capping, I didn't lose
Yeah.
my hair, right? So my sister was 29. And what she did, I mean, talk about stressful, right? It's 3 months before her wedding. She's diagnosed. Our flavor of breast cancer is triple negative, which is very aggressive as a uh, pathology for breast cancer. And she let people in, maybe out of necessity, right? But given that she had a wonderful community, she is a runs a personal training facility with her fiance, now husband, and there were a lot of people who they let in, and the difference was profound because I mean the chemo still sucked. Right, losing her, she did lose her hair. It sucked. She wanted the wedding to happen, so they scheduled the chemo so it could happen. And it was by rule not a sad wedding. It was one of the happiest weddings I've ever been to. But
It's,
these were all really important things. They created moments. They let people help them. They let people come over for game night, provided they were healthy, or provide food. And the difference, I mean, she was 29, she was very healthy, she responded very well to the treatment. Some of the chemo was awful, but we found the treatments, the palliative treatments, to mitigate a lot of that once we knew what we were dealing with. Um, and, you know, we go through more cancers with more family members. My mother has another one, my so on and so forth. And we get to me. I finally had decided, Will, to do a stressful thing. I was going to have preventative surgery, preventative bilateral mastectomies. I didn't really want to do that, but for a host of reasons, I had reached my early 50s. I had had my kids, I had nursed my kids, I had enjoyed the use of my breasts. And, I wasn't ever going to be as healthy as I was then to deal with a major surgery. So I knew that was the surgery I would have if I got cancer. So I made the commitment. I made a plan.
and many women do.
Many women do.
Many
And
women do.
and we are there are things happening in the research community to make that
Oh,
unnecessary, but we're not there yet. We're just not there yet with, medications that reduce the risk. And, I'm very thankful. I was screened constantly.
yeah.
But part of the protocol, if you're going to have a preventative bilateral mastectomy, is you go through screening. And
Yes.
lo and behold, the day before my surgery, I'm diagnosed with breast cancer. That was
Amazing.
stressful.
It's amazing. Oh my God.
It's insane. I've basically, the way I told people is the universe flipped me the bird. I mean, I was annoyed. I was,
Uh,
and, I'd made a plan and now my plan blew up. But I didn't think I was going to die. The memory of dealing with my mother's and the research and then updating the research, it's like, this is going to be really annoying and really disruptive. And then it's going to be over. And there was a strength in believing that
so let me just ask you. So you went through it with your mom,
twice.
and then twice, and then with your sister,
Hmm.
and then it's your turn.
Yeah, there were a bunch of others in between. My grandmother, my mother again with a different cancer, my grandfather, my so on and so forth. Like
But
lots.
by the time you are personally diagnosed, do you feel that was beneficial as far as your stress levels maybe wouldn't have been what they might have been had you had no stress?
100%. 100%.
Oh,
Because, well, look, you talk about when you heard in your family it's
mm,
cancer and you're scared, are they going to die? And then you don't know what's going to happen next. And it feels like for everybody, things have to happen very fast. Like
yes,
it's cancer, things have to happen very fast. And with solid tumors like breast cancer, it actually can be 2, 4 weeks and it doesn't change anything, right? It's not
right.
even for me. I mean, I had a very rapidly growing cancer with the triple negative, and even there, they're like 2 to 4 weeks, you'll be fine. So you don't know that. So I did. Like I had the benefit of, yes, we're going to treat it seriously and we're going to move seriously, but the benefits of doing all the testing and pathology, and so we can precisely target the weaknesses of your tumor, yeah, that's worth doing. And the scanning, so we know what are we doing? Has it spread anywhere? That's worth doing. And so my stress very simply was there's a bunch of people who know I'm going to have this surgery, and I want to tell them so they don't stress out my family by causing my family to tell people over and over again, she didn't have surgery because she has cancer. That's just not a great conversation to
Yeah.
have on
No.
repeat, right? So I wanted to protect them and me from that. And two, if you don't have cancer, you don't have an oncologist. So I knew I needed an oncologist. And, that's a process to find your oncologist and your surgeon. And, I happen to have had a breast surgeon because of where I was, but most people don't. So I knew here's a checklist of things that are going to need to happen now that I have heard it's cancer. I will need an oncologist. I will need to decide if I'm staying with my breast surgeon or if I'm switching depending on where my oncologist is affiliated. I need to communicate with people. I need to figure out what I'm going to do about work and like check, 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 check. And by the way, the book, Crushing the Cancer Curveball, has a lot of these checklists because if I'm going to go through it 12 times, why should you have to? Why don't I give you a shortcut? Here's the
Yeah.
checklist. And so it's, I think removing some of the uncertainty reduces some of the stress. Can't reduce all of it. Cancer is serious and it is scary and it is infuriating and sad and but it is something that we can treat
Right.
and it is something that you don't have to be alone. There
And
are
it's
a lot of people.
constantly being updated.
Oh my gosh.
My wife, once you go through, as you well know, you go through something like cancer and you now have a whole new definition to your name, a patient. You go through an oncologist and all that. You become just more resilient to it, to all the stressors that happen. I think so my wife went to see her oncologist about, I'll say 6 years after everything is over. And the oncologist said to her, who we just loved it. He said, if you were diagnosed today, you wouldn't have had to go through chemo or radiation. Well, thanks for telling us
Right.
that, you know.
Well, I can
So
put a fine point on that, Will. My
please.
sister, my mother, and I because we have a genetic predisposition to cancer, to this cancer, we all have the same pathology. They're all triple negative with a high K67 score, Ki67 score, which means it's fast growing. Triple negative means no Herceptin, it's not HER2 positive, no tamoxifen because it's not estrogen receptive, it's triple negative. All three of us, and my sister had a new primary after mastectomy right after my treatment. All of us had different protocols for the same cancer, partially because of time and partially because of depending on what you've had before impacts what you can have going forward. So It is changing so fast, and the possibilities on the horizon are so good. They are working to reduce the toxicity, to reduce the duration, to try to figure out what's the minimal effective dose rather than the maximum tolerated dose. The way our FDA works, and for safety reasons, are good. They want to know what's max tolerated. Well, max tolerated can also have max side effects.
Yes.
What if you could figure out minimum efficacy?
Hmm.
Now you could actually, and that's what they're doing.
Yes.
When we figured out, again, it doesn't apply to me, but when we figured out for people like your wife that they didn't need the full dose of tamoxifen, they could have the baby tamoxifen, which is so much more tolerable. That's great. So
I know.
there's good things. But you asked about stress. This is a stress podcast. So, you know, the second day, I love telling this story. I told my kids at my dinner table, my college boys were home, and they all experienced it in their own ways, and that's a longer story. But one of them was leaving the next day, and he's my collegiate athlete. So he was going into season. He could not come home during my treatment. It was actually going to be impossible. And he felt horrible about that. He felt guilty. He said, you're always here for me, and I can't be here when you need me. To which I said, you child, me parent, my job, not yours. But he was experiencing a lot of stress. And I did something that I hope everybody can try. I said to him, I'm going to have chemo on a schedule because that's the way chemo works, because I know that. And the schedule might be weekly, every other week, or every 3 weeks. I don't know yet because I haven't met with the oncologist. But chemo days are probably going to be days that I might dread. I might feel lousy, like I'm being poisoned, right?
Hmm.
Let's,
Yes, you are.
So, and the poison's going to save my life, but I'm being poisoned. And I would like to have something to look forward to on those days. So, my son, who is a wonderful writer, I would like to ask you to write me a letter for every chemo that I will open at the infusion center. And it will be a treat that I get only at the infusion center is a letter from my son. Can you do that? And he said, yes. I said, that would help me so much. Will, I have 12 letters from my then 19-year-old collegiate athlete son.
Oh, what a treasure.
A treasure. I tell people, like, who's got that? No one. I win. Like, it's amazing. And they weren't deep, meaningful discussions on the nature of motherhood and parenthood
Yeah.
and being a son. And he's a philosophy major. He could write something like that, but they were not. They were letters about what's happening in his life,
Yeah.
what's going on, what's annoying him with this teacher, or what he's working
Oh,
on with
yeah.
his baseball. And, I'd sit in the infusion center between the lab draw and the starting of chemo, and I'd open it up on my iPad because it was digital, and I'd just smile.
Yeah.
And that was the first happiness tripwire I discovered. And I realized, wait a minute, there's a bunch of ways I could make infusions suck less. And everybody you tell you have cancer says, oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that. If there's anything I can do, please let me know. And they mean it. The
Yes.
problem that they really do, because if
Yeah.
you're not the person with cancer, I mean, and most of us are not that person, we want to do something to help because it makes us, I don't know, we feel like we're adding good karma because we love people, because we're really thankful it's not us going through the cancer. And can we do something to help?
Right.
And it
Right.
feels good to help. So I realized I had a verifiable army of people who might do very small things. And when you don't ask for very big things, because people say, I don't want to be a burden. Well, okay, I don't need you if I throw up to clean up after me. Like I have very few people I even want to see in that situation. But there's a lot of people who can send an emoji or a text. There's a lot of people who can share a picture of something funny. There's a lot of people who can go out for a walk for 20 minutes. Like if you ask for small things, over the course of a 4, 6, 8 month treatment cycle, people might do 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's nothing. We
Yeah.
spend more time doom scrolling.
Send me a
Like,
joke every day.
send me a joke once in a while.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be every day. I had someone who sent me one every day, but send me something. And what happens, Will, this is really important. When you have that short moment, and they are short, your body releases dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. Those have three phenomenal effects. And you know this, I'm sure your listeners do, but I'll repeat it because it makes me happy. One, you think clearer, which you need. Two, you feel connected to people, which you need. And three, your immune system gets a little battery charge, which you need.
Yes.
And so I had these constantly. And, some of them I chose, I'll show you. So these are two of my happiness tripwires. This is Stego, the Stegosaurus.
We
Stego
had a
is a
we had a Steggy.
Yeah, like
We had
this is a ridiculously small, silly stuffed animal that my husband bought when I got my port. And he said it spoke to him. Well, I brought Stego to every infusion. And Stego has a unique attribute, which is that Stego's head and my wrist are the same size. And so I wanted to sleep after the Benadryl that I got through my infusions. So I would take my wristband, I'd slip it off me, I'd put it on Stego, and I'd put Stego here, and my hands would be in ice mittens or under the blankets, but they could securely ensure I was me because I was holding my wristband
yeah,
with my
that's
Stego.
awesome.
But how sweet is that, right?
That's great.
Or
That's
this one, right? This one, my best friend from college sent me a dozen reasons why you're my friend. And I'd sit down at the infusion center and I'd open it up and I'd just pick one.
oh, that's cool.
And Shira says, "You are such a badass." And I'd get a happiness tripwire. She did it once. She sent me the cylinder. That's it. Right. So these are little things. And
Well,
if
they
we,
seem like little things, but they're in reality, they're not. Because like you mentioned, when you're feeling better, one of the things you said is your immune system gets a boost. Now, there's a couple of things going on. When you're in chemo, you're killing your immune system. And they monitor it very closely because of that. The other thing is that the stress you're going through really impacts your immune system
it
in a
does.
negative way. So you have all these things attacking your immune system to the point where they actually told us we could not eat fresh vegetables and fruit
Mm,
because they weren't processed enough and it might be bacteria and stuff on. So stick to canned, can you imagine? Stick to
no.
canned vegetables and fruit, they've been processed. And during this time, I, in my one of the small ways I try to support, because I have an acre and a half, had an organic garden in the backyard. And they said, let's just check her immune system numbers first, and then we'll let you know. So you're right. I mean, every little thing, our
Mm-hmm.
steady, your friends sending you those little things and making you feel better, alleviating some of that stress, all of that
Huge.
is helpful.
Well, and I'll tell you, at the end of my chemo, because they're monitoring your immune system every time they administer chemo. And at the
Yes.
end of mine, for my 12th cycle, I saw my oncologist. And now I want to be clear. I was pretty healthy. I exercised before I was diagnosed, while I was in treatment, after, where I'd lift heavy weights with my best friend. So I had community and exercise in the same daily dose. I did eat raw vegetables and raw fruit. I didn't eat sushi. I didn't drink because those were on the no-fly zone.
I
But I just want to be clear, like all these things, I had great treatment. And in my 12th cycle, my oncologist looked at my labs, looked at me, and said, "I would never guess you're a cancer patient."
Awesome.
So
Isn't that
somehow
awesome?
this full-on assault on my immune system because of community, because of exercise, because of happiness tripwires, because of dumb luck, I don't know. I'll take it all.
Yes.
Made my body able to tolerate. And, a lot of people, they say, I'm worried cancer is going to make me look weak to my family, look weak to my professional colleagues. I turn to them and I say this to CEOs, whatever. Your strongest people are people who have gone through cancer. We have faced the hardest, the worst, and we have come out the other end. We are strong, we're resilient, and we tolerate no bullshit.
Yep. I agree with that. I said, I've seen what you guys go through. Um,
And what we're like on the other side, right?
and
Like,
here I am, the other side is screw you. Here I am. I'm
I'm
healthy.
here,
I'm happy. It was a bad year.
but it
Okay.
wasn't. That's my point in the book.
You're right.
It
It's
wasn't. And
just a
and
year.
and we have to rethink it. It might have been a bad year. And if you don't respond to treatment, if your cancer's too advanced, it could be a terrible year. So I don't want to sound flippant. But if you are responding to treatment and you welcome people in to be part of this journey. And I mean, I reached out. I had a psycho-oncologist for my mental health. I believe
Oh yeah,
support groups can be awesome. I have a one I
absolutely.
was born into, so I have my mother, my sister, so I had a pretty good support group there. But it doesn't have to be the worst year. It can be a year where you feel more connected to people than ever. It can be a year where your body infuriates you and amazes you. It can be a year where you laugh
Um,
because it's ridiculous. So much of it is absurd.
it's a year of discovery too. You
Yeah.
discover how much people care about you. I'll tell you a quick story. So my wife is a teacher in an elementary school, like your mom. She now has to tell her staff, I got
Yeah.
to go away for a while. They threw a party. Is it, oh, God, poor Sue? No, it's farewell to the Tatas party. And they have pink balloons and they make her a shirt, farewell to the, Tatas. And it was one of the most important
It's
moments in my life.
right.
Was it about me? So you can imagine the effect it had on my wife.
Of
So
course.
talking about you when you said you keep your humor up, you find a good support group. They got together and they were able to donate sick days to her. I
Hmm.
gave her half of all of mine. I had months of sick days. I'm just one of those guys. And they all got together, talked to the union, and were able to give her sick days. So you, yes, it's a very challenging experience, but you may find out some very positive things
I think
going
that's right.
along with it.
So nobody would ever choose cancer, right?
Yeah,
Because you'd be insane. But
yeah.
since you don't have a choice, how do you take the cancer and transform the journey into something a little bit better, suck a little bit less, right? And maybe you have people. One of the women I met when I was going through chemo had the same diagnosis. We were on the same schedule. She was younger than me, 38. She was a nurse, and all the nurses had donated sick time because the
Yeah,
financial implications, if you can't work, are pretty harsh. And they shouldn't be, but
with
they
that,
are. And that's a wonderful thing that people did. And I had a bye bye boobies party. I had a party when we were at 4 weeks of chemo, 6 weeks of chemo, 12 when I finished the chemo, the bye bye boobies. Then we had the big celebration 3 months after my surgery when I went wakeboarding. Like all of these were moments to celebrate. Yeah, like after major deep flap surgery. 3 months and 3 days later, I was up on a wakeboard.
Awesome.
Um, right, because like you want to seize life and you want to grab onto it because
Yeah.
things like cancer show up unexpected and they throw you into a tailspin. So,
You're right. It is very unexpected, and it's not just unexpected to you.
right.
And that's something I wanted to talk to you about because you have you weren't just a patient. You were also a caregiver
Mm-hmm.
for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to talk to you about that too, because um, somebody gets diagnosed with cancer, it affects everyone around you.
It does.
And your sons, you with your mom. Caregivers have a different kind of emotional load. What stress patterns did you see in loved ones
Yeah,
who were supporting someone with cancer? It can't be the same as the patient,
it's not.
and
So,
but it can be overwhelming.
oh, it's a lot. So the first off is um, I want to talk about guilt,
Mm.
right? So I'll start with my daughter. My daughter was 15 and a half when I was diagnosed. I was 15 and a half when my mother's recurrence
This
happened.
was my daughter.
Right. So 15 and a half is a sensitive age
Yeah.
for a young woman. And my daughter, as we told her, I watched her at the table and I watched her react. And to her, I said, whatever you are feeling, I am sure you are feeling, oh my God, I'm sorry this is happening to my mom. And I'm sure the next thing that came through your head is this going to happen to me? And what is this going to mean to my life? And then the next thing is, I'm a bad person because how can I be thinking about myself when my mother was just diagnosed with cancer? And she looks at me
So
and I said,
true.
I know this is what went through your head because I was you. And it goes through every teenage girl's head who has to hear this. So please don't feel guilty about it. It's okay. I'm glad you're worried about yourself because I want you to make sure every doctor you see for the rest of your life takes it seriously and is watching you like a hawk because cancer caught early is cancer you can beat for the most part.
Yeah.
And so I can't promise you you won't ever get cancer, but if you treat this seriously, not living in anxiety and worrying is today the day, but just, know your body, make sure your doctors know your body, make sure you're getting the scanning and the preventative care you should get. And if you get it, catch it early and make it a non-event. So but don't feel guilty. Feel empowered. And is it going to affect your life? We're going to try not to. But what I suggest to you, and I said this to my husband and the other kids, my sons, I said, I think you should tell people, not because you want sympathy or pity, because that's generally not our vibe, but you don't know. People don't wear a badge. I've been through this. It's very unusual to do what I do, where I wrote a book and I do a podcast, and I'm basically putting myself out there as I've walked the path. You can ask me things. A lot of people don't. They want to say, I've done it. I got through it. It's over. I'm back to my life,
Fine. I want
which
to
is,
forget about it.
or it's just fine. Like most people who've been through it, if they're asked, they'll talk about it, but they're just not. One of my friends basically says, like, I don't want to dwell in cancer all the time. Great, no problem. So I think telling people, one, lets them know this is going on in my life and gives them the opportunity to offer you support, which actually makes them feel good. Number two, the people who've been through something similar are going to signal you that they're available for the harder conversations
Mm.
because they do know what it feels like to be scared you're going to lose a parent or to lose a parent. And so, or a spouse or whatever, they know. And they have a knowledge of what to say and what not to say that is beyond. So tell people and tell people because there are going to be moments where you're not going to be on your game. Don't know why. It may have been you didn't sleep well, may have been we had a rough chemo, whatever. And I would like everybody's first reaction to be, oh, maybe it's the cancer thing. Like, let me give them a little bit of leeway and grace before I react to they're not quite on their game. And you're all entitled to a little bit of leeway and grace when you're
Yeah.
going through cancer. And if people don't know, they don't know.
But what about the people, Chris, the people that are in and day out, the caretakers
Yeah.
of the person going through. You go through chemo, you have a plethora of side effects that
You
can
might.
be, you depending on who you are and what your chemo is, of course, but almost 100% are going to need some support,
Yeah.
some physical care. I mean, even if it's, I never cooked before in my life, I got to cook for the family now, to all the way down to um, doing, how do I put this, physiological things to help
Sure.
wound care and things like that,
Yeah, I mean, you could be emptying drains, you could be
which I did.
helping. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. The human body,
So how do
it,
they,
yeah.
because this was my problem, how do
So
they address that stress of, I'm not the patient, why
okay,
am I
so
even bitching? Like,
first off, to stop feeling guilty, forgive yourself. It's a lot, and it's okay for you to be tired and for you to need a break. It's okay. There's nothing like the whole I'm not the patient, therefore I can't possibly be suffering. You are suffering because someone you love is going through something hard. You are suffering because you may be anxious and worried about is it going to work? You may feel you don't have any control or even any say. You don't get to choose what she does or doesn't do. There are activities like driving and cooking that are good opportunities to ask for help. There are activities like emptying drains or other physiological things that are very intimate, and it's either you or, if your insurance is part of this, a home health aide. But I think it's really important to accept this is also happening to you, and it's okay. You don't have to feel bad that you feel angry or tired or mad or you wish it wasn't happening. Of course, and just by not resisting, those feelings will lose their strength, right? So just let those feelings flow and talk to a psychologist, talk to a social worker. There are support groups for caregivers
yes,
because it's really tiring and it's really hard. And I mean, I had a gentleman on my podcast who needed a bone marrow transplant and had severe graft versus host, which made him blind for 18 months. I mean, his caregiving
oh my
needs
God.
were extreme. And his caregivers needed more people, needed support, needed to rotate because it's tiring. I remember my sister's first chemo. They infused on a Friday. And, Friday afternoon, Friday evening, she felt fine. By
Yep.
Saturday morning, I got a text from my soon to be brother in law. Hey, she's been up all night. We've been up all night. She's not leaving the bathroom and I'm exhausted. Can you tap in? Now, Will, I had a 2 year old and a 1 month old. And
Sure.
I turned to my husband and I said, I gotta go to it where I gotta go to my sister's. I gotta help. I'm taking the baby. Don't kill the toddler. And he said, when are you coming back? I said, I don't know. Hence why don't kill the toddler. I don't know when I'll be back. I need to go help. And I went with the baby and, did what I could and gave my brother-in-law half a day to go be somewhere else, to
Take a
get some
breath.
fresh air, to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And he never should feel a moment of guilt for needing that. If I could have given my sister 4 hours of a break, I would have done that too. I would have stepped in and took her place, but I couldn't. But I could help him, which helps her. And then 2 days later, when we were at the infusion center, because she was so dehydrated, Tom was there and they asked me to come. I show up with the baby, and the infusion nurses are like, baby can't be in here. So Either Tom or I have to leave. And I turned to Tom. I said, "Do you want to stay? Do you want me to stay?" And he's like, "I would like you to stay. I would like a break." Like, fine. You need to take the baby, and he will need to eat in 2 hours. So you get 2 hours. Go. Don't kill the baby. Goodbye. And he turns to me as he's walking out with my son in the baby carriage. This is the one that became the baseball player. And he says, "Make them fix her." And I said, "Hold up. Do you want me to take control in this situation? Because I've been very much whatever Tracy and Tom do, I'm supportive. I'm not having an opinion." And he said, "Yes, make them fix her." I said, "Okay, you should go because you probably aren't going to be uncomfortable with how I do this."
Mhm.
And then, I turned to the nurses. I said, "This type of drug doesn't work. This type of drug doesn't work. I want this antiemetic." And they said, "That's very expensive." I said, "Don't think I asked." And from that point forward, she got what is called Emend or Sinvanti. That's the brand names of, I think it's called Apripant. And it's a 3-day nausea block. And it's necessary if your reaction to chemo is 3 days of vomiting. And so,
Try different things too.
yeah. And so I just, I knew people who had the information and I said, "I want it in her chart. Show me it in her chart. I want it in the infusion. I want it every time." And they're like, "Okay." And so it was. And then he came back with my baby and I left, and my sister didn't have to suffer like that again. Did he feel guilty for needing my help? Gosh, I hope not.
I hope
I
not.
felt I felt great that I was on maternity leave and I could just do it, right? And I could
I
just
think
be there.
also men and women are different. The way you would handle something and the way a guy would handle it might be different. Guys want to fix things. We
I
just
want
want,
to fix too.
yeah. So it's like it's a difficult situation. This is not fixable. It's how do I manage it? And when we were talking about caregivers, something came to my mind is that okay, yes, I'm her caregiver, but she has others
Of
like the
course.
nurses, like the nurses in I used to call it the chemo salon. It
Uh-huh.
looked like a salon to me, and I, I'm a very observant guy, always have been, and I would observe every patient and every nurse, and found the best nurse. This
I didn't
guy,
get to choose. They got assigned to me, but that's cool.
well, they were assigned until I found Michael, and I cornered him. And I said, Michael, I want you with my wife. He was a great guy, a great nurse. In fact, I have a picture of him and my wife. I credit him for getting her through chemo. So caregivers in general are very, very important
Yes.
for getting through this whole ordeal. You also wrote something I wanted to ask you about, just to move along because we because of our shared experience, we could talk about this for a long time. But you wrote something about your concept of happiness tripwires. I
Right.
thought it was very powerful. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So asking someone to be happy or be positive is giving someone work to do so you feel better. So screw that. That's
Yeah.
that's not right. Does optimism correlate to higher uh lower mortality rates and higher response to treatment? Yeah, it does. But you can't force somebody or tell somebody how to think. But you can string what I call happiness tripwires that are inevitable on their path. And you can ask people to put those on your path. So I'll give you an example. You talked about the infusion center. I talked about the stego, my son, this. I got a port. It was right here on my chest. And a port
Yeah.
is a very visible reminder that you're going through chemo because it's
Mhm.
visible. I still love it. And
But yeah, they're
I
very
love my port.
helpful.
I
Yeah.
loved my port. I loved my port and I thought my port deserved a name. And so I made that a little contest among my friends, and I have some funny friends. And someone came up with the name Voldeport. Okay,
I've
it's
been
great.
told that too. my wife because she's a big Harry Potter fan. So
Exactly. Well, I told it to every nurse, everybody that accessed the port. I introduced to Voldemort, and every one of them reacted like you did. They pause and then they burst out laughing, and then I laugh. And what we just had was a happiness tripwire because of a name. My friend Julian sent me emoji kisses on infusion days. That's it. But I smiled because he was thinking of me. And that's a happiness tripwire. When my sister wanted people to go for walks with her, and I set up a spreadsheet of walk with Tracy, and it filled, and people showed up in the mornings at 8:30 to go for a 20-minute walk with her. Each one was a happiness tripwire. By the way, for both,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And and when people said, can I come visit? I'd love to see you. I said, are you healthy? They said, yes. I said, great. Let's talk for 15 minutes. And they did. And it was a happiness tripwire. And that could be a phone call, that could be a text, that could be a letter. I had a man I was working with, and he said, my father's going through it, and I feel terrible. They're 3 states away, and there's nothing I can do. I said, can I introduce you to DoorDash? And he said, oh my God, that's a great idea. I said, of course it is. You can provide a meal as often as you like.
And what a
And
great help that is.
what a great help. So, like, they are very, I in the book have a list, and I tell people, like, we can generate a list of things that make you smile. And, you know, a,
That's a great idea.
right. And
Generate a list.
of
I'm a
things
big
that make you
list guy.
smile. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then share your list. And you know what happens? The people in your life are going to do the things that make you smile. Like my eldest son, his thing that make me smile, and he does it to this day. He said, he goes, Mama, I'm going to call you every day. 21-year-old man calls his mother every day just to say, hi, Mom. Makes me smile,
Yep.
right? My daughter, she's a wonderful musician. She'd play music and the house would fill with music and song, and that would make me smile. And it would make her smile. And other people would send me a podcast they liked. And what I told people is I do not want uh, links, Google links about cancer treatments or
Yeah.
cancer causes, or I
Yeah.
don't want that. I have doctors for that. If you hear something that you're like, wow, this is inspirational, sure. Um, if it inspired you, it might inspire me. That's
My,
great.
my
But
daughter used to make me babkas. It,
babka, sure.
it's like
I know what it is. It's a cake with
cake.
with
It's okay.
chocolate or cinnamon rolled together
Makes the
and
best. So
right. So, that could be it. It
yeah.
could be it could be take my partner out for dinner so he gets a break.
Okay.
Like that would be great. So, it's all those things. And if you have young children, what I say to people who are friends with people who have young children are going through this, plan the play dates. Take the kids for a weekend so that the kids can have fun and mom and dad get a break. These are happiness tripwires.
I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, what it is you're saying is to help the person going through this, who's personally going through this, and and also the caregivers find a little bit more balance.
Yes.
Yes, part of my life is dealing with the cancer, but part of my life is getting a babka or getting an emoji.
Moments of joy.
Moments of joy that really makes that journey, that stressful journey, a little less stressful, a little more doable,
This is a
you
break.
know,
It, it,
because
it
it's
it
a
may be
long
a,
journey.
yeah. And if you get like a 10-second break from stress where you get to feel joy, that's a 10-second break.
Yeah.
And I guarantee the stress is not going to feel as intense after that break. All of it is a balancing, a leveling out, or if you will, a evening of the playing field. We're going through
Okay.
something hard. It's going to be stressful. There are things that are going to be uncomfortable, potentially awful. I was very lucky. My body's response to chemo was something along the lines of, "That the best you got?" Right?
It is lucky.
It was very, very lucky. A lot of people don't. Um, I think the happiness tripwires were part of that, and I think luck was part of that. But happiness tripwires, not asking me to be happy.
Yeah,
You're just sharing something that will make me smile. And you can string your life. And I will tell you, don't stop or don't start just because it's cancer.
right.
Do it all the time.
Okay.
It's good for you.
We're running a little
Yes.
long, but I did want to
Sorry.
ask you one. That's okay. I have so much that I could ask you about. There's just so much. You know, I can't at this time. But for those who are listening to this and are facing new diagnosis, if you could pick one mindset shift that can immediately reduce some emotional overload, can you help them with that?
Sure. First, it's okay that you feel overwhelmed, scared, mad, whatever those feelings are. If you feel it, feel it all the way, write it down, don't resist it. That's normal. And this is not uncharted territory, it's only uncharted for you. So, knowing, learning what the steps are, learning what comes next will reduce your stress. So, if talking to people helps you do that, if reading a book or listening to a podcast helps you do that, but the more you understand about, look, you've been diagnosed, they're going to want to do pathology, they're going to want to probably do more imaging, then they're going to come up with a treatment plan. It will be some combination of, could be active monitoring, surgery, chemo, immunotherapy, radiology, and it's going to be a mix of those, not all at once. And your surgeon or your oncologist, depending on where you start, is going to lay out what it's likely going to look like. And then the big thing I did that took so much stress out, besides all the happiness tripwires, I made a calendar. I called it my cancer obliteration calendar. And I put the dates on that the doctors had told me. And I projected out. And what it gave me was, okay, it's January. I'd made the calendar on January 11th. And looking at the way this is going to play out, by my birthday in September, this will be over. Okay, I can do anything for that long. And some people don't know, maybe it's 18 months, but if you put it in like, okay, the next phase is this long, and I can do that, then I'll deal with the next thing. It will make it feel less massive and more manageable.
So a good mindset to have is to make it into digestible chunks.
Yes, right.
You
Do the
know,
next, you don't have to do everything. You need to
right.
do the next thing.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
As is your book, which is where is your book available? It is on Amazon. It's
Everywhere online. So you can get it at Amazon, at Barnes and Noble. You get anywhere you order books online. If you happen to be at the Mayo Clinic, it's in their library.
awesome.
It's and tell your doctors about it. I think it should be in every
Every waiting.
oncology, every waiting
Uh,
room. It's a good, the way the book works. If
yeah,
you want to read it end to end, it's a good read. If you don't, and you just want, like, tell me what to do, just read the conclusion because that summarizes everything, or just read the section about where you're at. Are you in prevention? Are you in diagnosis? Are you in treatment? Are you in surgery? I didn't write about radiology because I didn't go through it.
yeah.
And I'd say the
Not great.
survivors, it depends, but it is
Yeah,
it is finite. Like, the
right.
important thing about these things is, like, whether you're doing 5 days, 3 weeks, 5 weeks of chemo, it's finite. It's
Yes,
not forever.
it is not forever.
And
It's survivable. And reading
right,
books like yours is truly a big help
good.
because you've been through it so many times. And
And we're still here.
look at
We're still
look,
here.
look, happy, young, beautiful woman. It's fine.
Right.
You can be too. I
Yeah.
know that you guys out there are feeling, some of you who are experiencing this or other issues are feeling that it's overwhelming and you don't know what is going to happen. But this could happen. You
Hmm.
could be fine. And you just have
Right.
to know that. That's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today and speak
Thank you.
with you and have a conversation with you. First of all, because your knowledge is vast about this. And also because people need to hear that they're going to be okay. It's
Well,
really, yes, it's
and
stressful.
look, Will, 50% of people are diagnosed late stage and they may not be okay. And that is stressful too. And what I would say there is whatever time we have left, A, it's never enough. And B, we want to experience as much joy, as much love as we can. And if God forbid our time is short, how do we fill it with love?
And on you know what? That's a good note to stop on.
Right.
Joel, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate you doing the show. I know you're really busy. You have your own podcast, your own book. You're an awesome person to help people get through this issue. And I want to thank all of you that are watching today and listening for joining us. We're going to stop here, but don't forget to pick up that book and it'll help you on your journey. And that's going to do it for
Absolutely.
today. That's going to do it for us today. This has been your host, Will Heckman. Don't forget to visit us at stress.org and find out what stress management tool or technique works for you because not everyone is the same. And that means you need to join us next time to find out what stress management strategy or insights work just for you.